is sponsored by Augie's Locker Room. Augie's features the largest collection of Notre Dame football memorabilia and gifts, including rare and hard-to-find items.
Hey, this is Augie, Augie's Locker Room. Website, augieslockerroom.com. Visit us here or the website.
Prister Tim O'Malley following Marcus Freeman's post-bye week press conference. It is Monday and it's Pittsburgh week. We talked a lot about Pittsburgh. We also talked about what Notre Dame did during the week off. They did practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The players had three days off and were expected back last night by 7 p.m. A lot of self-scouting, Tim, and discussion of whether it's scheme or execution. We know which side the head coach is going to fall on.
Well, I thought it was explained well this time, though, that it's more execution than scheme, because he said the key for coaching is to be able to get your players to understand your scheme with clarity and allow them to play fast. So in that way, he was talking about coaching and execution. Yeah, and I mean, people do have to execute. No matter what we want to say, they're not puppeteers out there. The players do have to execute. But I thought it was a really good point, because he mentioned the defense, specifically, has done a great job of getting their players to understand the scheme and play fast. And we kind of hinted at this, hoping it would happen this way. Year 2 of the Al Golden scheme with a lot of veterans. They sure do look like they're playing fast right now.
Well, there's no doubt there was a ton of clarity on the defensive side of the football, and I think that all ties in. Number one, playing against Caleb Williams for a second time and realizing everything that went wrong last year and what the best approach would be. Now, you asked about Jadarian Price and whether his playing time would expand. We've talked about a pitch count all year. I'm not sure that he ever actually really addressed that, but he definitely is going to stay on kick return following his 99-yard return against USC.
And I wonder, it's not really fair necessarily to Dylan McCullough, who has roles for every player, but I do wonder if Jadarian Price can be involved in the running game more. They clearly like him in the screen game, because as you pointed out, the pass that did work against USC, we thought is that the Ohio State screen. They like him in the return game. It just feels like if you could find 5 carries for someone, Jadarian Price might be the guy in good health. Now, we talked about Jeremiah Love needing more carries. We talked about Jabrion Payne being the trusted goal line back and third down back. He has more third down wins than Audric Estime has, and it's not even close. So they do all have roles. I just feel like Price could be explosive, and that's why I thought, can he be involved in the offense, not just return game?
Well, there aren't enough carries to go around to satisfy everybody, certainly. Now, Marcus Freeman talked about this is a game where Notre Dame has to run the football against Pittsburgh, but he mentioned it on a couple of occasions that this is also a team that you want to take shots against, because they will blitz from the third level. There will be a lot of man-to-man coverage, and you're going to have an opportunity to throw several deep balls this weekend.
This is another game where, and they're not anywhere near as good as Duke or Duke's defense, this Pittsburgh defense. But remember, we mentioned when you're playing Duke, Duke is more than happy to drag Notre Dame into the fourth quarter, trailing by 1 touchdown or trailing by 10 points even. So Pittsburgh would be as well. I don't think you want to get in a slog with Pittsburgh, and I think if you can hit a couple deep and loosen it up a little bit, they don't have the offense to beat Notre Dame's defense. But if this is all between the tackles and they have 8 guys in the box and you can't hit anything deep, you're looking at another 20-14 or 20-10 fourth quarter, and that's fine with Pat Narduzzi right now, because they are decided underdogs.
Yeah, well, the over-under is 45.5,
right,
so that tells you a little something. And if you've seen, I watched a bunch of Pittsburgh over the weekend, and not only their very unexciting game against Wake Forest, but previous games, including the win over Louisville. They will run the clock. They're more than happy to run the football. Sibo Flemister he's playing good football for Pittsburgh. He was the main guy. He carried 23 times over the weekend, cracked the 100-yard mark, scored a couple touchdowns. He appeared, Rodney Hammond Jr. is the other running back, but it appears that they like Flemister, and Flemister looked really good. But they will slow the game down. There's no doubt about that. Christian Veyer, their new quarterback, has done a nice job, but they are still a whole bunch of check with me stuff. And I would think that you get Al Golden game planning against a young quarterback like that, Notre Dame has a chance to make some real inroads against this Pitt offense.
I think the offense remains in the Stone Age for Pat Narduzzi right now. The defense, they're always going to come physical, hit, have an attitude. But I'm glad you asked the question of him, what do you see in a Pat Narduzzi defense? Because usually you see, was it 199 sacks in the last 4 years? It sounds like a made-up number, because that would be eclipsing Notre Dame's program record for a single season every single year, 4 straight years in a row. They are not getting that from the defensive line this year, and I think that's what's made them a little bit more vulnerable. But make no mistake, the offense is why they would be 2-5.
Yeah.
I think it could be a above 500 team if they had a good offense.
I agree, and they're still getting sacks, but they're not getting it from their defensive line. They had a first-round draft pick defensive lineman last year. They had a couple free agents that were signed along the defensive line. They also, it appears that Solomon DeShields, I think they lost him for the Notre Dame game with a concussion this past week, and that's really huge. They are prehistoric offensively. There's no doubt about that. But Notre Dame cannot afford to be prehistoric, and that leads us to the wide receivers: Thomas, Greathouse, Merriweather, Colsey. We have an update on their physical status.
Yeah, and they're fighting their way back, except Colsey's a little bit behind. I think it's notable he's a little bit behind where they said they thought he might be with the knee scope. He's played 4 games. He sat out the 5th game. Now, he was injured to sit out the 5th game, but he sat out the 5th game. He's the number one guy when a question was asked, I think, in a bye week. This bye week's a little weird in week 8, but in a bye week, do you have the conversations with the guys that might be looking to enhance their careers elsewhere? Deion Colsey would be a guy that can graduate in probably a year or so, or maybe just by the end of the summer. 4 games played. Anybody else in that realm right now, they're younger. So now we're talking about, you could also redshirt Deion Colsey. Remember, Deion Colsey could come back to Notre Dame and have 2 years of eligibility left. He doesn't have to leave because he played 2 years. Boubacar Traore has played 3 games. And Jaden Osbury has played 4 games. Osbury seemed to have stopped after 4 games as well. That might be part of the plan. They did that with Jack Kaiser, Kyron Williams over the years. It's something you have to do. Interesting conversations with a guy like Traore, though, who can help you.
Yeah, he can help you right now. And we saw, like we've said, we saw that pass rush in August, and it was the same thing against USC. Speaking of changes, or I should say no changes, Marcus Freeman was asked about the offensive line with the bye week in there, and it will be the customary starting 5. He was happy that Billy Schrouth, Ashton Craig, some of those guys got a whole bunch of reps. There was a lot of 2-on-2, good versus good during the week, early in the week, but they're going to stay with that starting lineup, and that certainly makes sense as you head into the final stretch here of the 2023 regular season. That's it outside of Notre Dame Stadium. Check us out on irishillustrated.com.